Part 1. Narrator. But before the birth of Crimson there was a war between the royal families of the Chaos beings, which are beings of light and dark versus just dark beings. The royal families. This is the end of your tyranny upon our existence. The royal families. Underworld Sun Moon Colosseum. Narrator. Crimson's family wipes out the royal family in the dark universe, but Megavoid escaped. Megavoid. I'll get my revenge on the family that killed my race by killing their youngest son. Narrator. Megavoid set his plan into motion. Narrator. Once upon a time before the concept of time, there was a child being born on this day of March the 11th on the planet Trinity Sunlight Stargaze in the Crimson Nova dimension. Narrator. With the birth of this child the sun, moon, and underworld were opened and moving. Narrator. With the birth of this child the sun, moon, and underworld were opened and moving closer. Doctors. King Ben and Queen Sandra, your son is surrounded by a pure white, blue, white, purple, platinum, red, and black aura, and crown around him, and on his head. Eldest Elder. My king, I just got through reading the star prophecy from the stars. Ben and the royal families. Wise Eldest Elder, what did the prophecy say? Eldest Elder. It said that this child born on this day will become the ultimate Supreme Lord and face his greatest threat after being reincarnated again and again with both of the royal families if they die. Justin. So what are you going to call him, stepmother and father? Sandra and Ben. Crimson Edward Rucker Omega. Narrator. Crimson is now 12. Crimson. Dad, how was that attack? Ben. Crimson, that was your strongest attack ever. Pitch. Crimson, we should spar. Crimson. That's a good idea, Pitch. Juanita. Are you too crazy or stupid? Crimson. What are you talking about, Auntie Juanita? Sandra and Ben. If you fight against Shirlita, Justin, or Pitch, that would destroy reality. Crimson. Well, okay, I don't want that to happen. Narrator. Every time was peaceful, no fights and no wars. Dawn of Time Arc Part 2. Narrator. Crimson is now 14. Juanita. Crimson, meet Nebula, your adopted cousin. Nebula. Hey Crimson, do you want to train? Narrator. A boy who was the same age as Nebula came. Cloud. Master Crimson, are we training today? Crimson. Yeah, we are going to have a new guest joining us today. Cloud. Who is it? Crimson. My cousin Nebula. Narrator. Crimson, Nebula, and Cloud spent the whole day training. Narrator. The fateful day that Cloud and Crimson and Justin are training. Cloud. With all due respect, Crimson and Justin, can you all use your half of your true power? Crimson and Justin. Are you sure about this? Sam. Crimson and Justin, is this okay? Crimson. Yeah, if that's what he wants. Narrator. They spent 3 hours on training inside of the training void. Crimson and Justin. I think you are at your limit, Cloud. Narrator. Cloud's aura was a dark deep blue and red. Cloud's hair was standing up with lighting around him. Cloud. Let's keep this up, I'm getting stronger. Narrator. Then after Cloud shows his brand new transformation, then he powered down. Justin and Crimson. Well, he did well. Sam. Of course he did, you all were only using half of y'all's power. Crimson and Justin. Yeah, or maybe a little bit more. Narrator. Couple days later, Cloud woke up. Cloud. How did I do against Crimson? You did well. Cloud. Wow, I'm survived against Crimson and Justin. Crimson and Justin. Tomorrow we'll be training you at that power. Cloud. Okay then. Taeyeon. I can't believe he survived that power level. Crimson. He has a special ability of adapting to any power level. Julian. Would that be a threat to us in the future? Crimson. No, it's not, because we are all strong than what you think we are. Justin. Even if we used our full power against Cloud, that would be my and Crimson's true potential. Crimson. At the point that boy would die. Narrator. A few more peaceful years until Cloud kept on pushing himself more and more. Narrator. Cloud was training one day until something inside him was unlocking. Narrator. So Cloud kept on unlocking more new abilities. These abilities were unlocked through Cloud's junk DNA. Now his DNA mutating something brand new. Cloud's rebellion. Narrator. Crimson is now 20 years old. Elder come running into the room. Elder. We can't find Cloud, Pitch, and Nebula at all. Crimson. That's because I sent them away to another planet, where they can train more on their new abilities. Juanita. But why did you send Pitch and Nebula with him? Ben and Sandra. The eldest elder find out who was Crimson greatest. Narrator. Pitch and Nebula came back with blood dripping from their mouths. Ben and Sandra. What happened to you all? Nebula and Pitch. Cloud and some others started to attack they. Narrator. Crimson powered up out anger and frustration. Narrator. Everyone in the original Infinity Dimension felt Crimson power. Narrator. On the planet called Days in lower part of the original Infinite Dimension. Narrator. Cloud and his allies was destroying innocent people and their families. Narrator. Cloud smiles at feeling Crimson's power. Cloud. He must have gotten my message, come at get me Crimson. Narrator. Crimson and the royal families comes to the location where Cloud was located at. Narrator. Few years later, Pitch and Cloud was sealed away. Narrator. Before Pitch was sealed away, Crimson had split his power into Omega, Grim, and Despair. Justin, Shirlita, Julian, Cornelius became Light, and Yin and Yang. Dawn of Time Arc Part 3. Narrator. A long time before the concept of time, Crimson's and Levi's reincarnations. Narrator. There were 3 great and powerful gods, and their names were Omega, Grim, and Despair. Narrator. They were always at war with one another, until they found peace, happiness, and harmony with one another. Narrator. One day they met in a space that they called the Realm. Omega. Hello, my oldest friends Grim and Despair. Grim and Despair. Hello, Omega. So what we going to do about my and Grim's cousin, because he's trying to oppose us? Omega. We can lock him up and reincarnate to stop him. But first, what we should call this place we are in? Grim. The godly realm where we all are reincarnations, and their families, and their descendants can be at peace. Despair. That's a great idea. Omega. Let's leave a book that will tell them who they are. And who they got to fight. Narrator. A couple years past, Despair was reincarnated into Levi. Narrator. While it took time for Omega and Grim to be reincarnated again. Dawn of Time Arc Part 4. Somewhere in the infinite dimension. Jet. What's wrong with you, Levi? Your parents said you completed your training, and no one can match your power. Levi. Yeah, I'm just waiting on my oldest friend and brother to be reincarnating. Jet. Are you talking about Omega and Grimm? Levi. Yep, I can feel it, but I just can't wait anymore. Narrator. So after this conversation with Jet. Narrator. He rewinded time to when he was a baby, and then freezes himself. Narrator. Few years later Crimson was born. Narrator. In the infinite dimension next the godly realm all the gods were present to witness this occasion. Narrator. Osiris, Isis and Seth goes to the godly realm, and she noticed that a book was glowing. This book was the book that Omega Grimm and Despair wrote in the ancient times. Royal Guard. King and Queen Osiris, Seth and Isis, I just received news that King and Queen Ben and Sandra is welcoming a new son. Seth. Isis and Osiris, y'all go and I'll read what's in this book. Osiris and Isis. Okay, then tell us what you find out. Seth. Okay then. Narrator. Isis and Osiris return to the Crimson Nova dimension to a planet called Utopia. The royal families. Isis and Osiris, y'all made it. Justin. Where is Uncle Seth? Ben. Yeah, he should be here. Osiris and Isis. Well, he stayed in the library in the godly realm. Ben. Okay, then it must been important. Isis and Osiris. You know what's funny, soon as our nephew and your son was being born an ancient book started to glow up. Then. That means Crimson is one of the legendary children. Isis and Osiris. That means as soon as he turn 1 we will start training him. Narrator. The Anunnaki shows up next to Seth. Anunnaki. Seth, what are you doing here? Seth. Well, reading this interesting book. Anunnaki. Well, what does it say? Seth. The youngest son of Ben and Sandra, and my nephew, is one of the legendary children of prophecy. Anunnaki. You know what this means, right? Seth. Yeah, we have to train him right away. Anunnaki. Yes, by the way, your father and Amun-Ra is not with us. Seth. They must be at the hospital with everyone else. Anunnaki. We are heading that way right now. Seth. I'll be right behind. Anunnaki. Okay then, Seth. Narrator. In the infinite dimension Levi wakes up. Levi. My oldest friend and my brother has been born. Narrator. Back at the hospital in the Crimson Nova dimension in the infinite dimension by the godly realm on a planet Utopia. Anunnaki. Osiris and Isis come here. Narrator. Sandra comes out of her hospital room holding Crimson. Sandra and Ben. Shirlita, Justin, Cornelius and Julian, meet your baby brother Crimson. Doctor. We noticed that your son has a pure blue, purple, and white aura surrounding his body. Isis. What does that mean, doctor? Doctors. Well, we have to run some. Seth. He's fine, doctor. Darius. What do you mean he's fine? Isis and Osiris. What was in that book, Seth? Seth. Let's just say that he's legendary, him and another young boy. Narrator. In Crimson Mindscape. Omega Grimm and Despair. Hello, Crimson. Crimson. Who are you? Omega Grimm and Despair. You are us and we are you. Crimson. Okay, then tell me how this training will work. Narrator. Crimson stops crawling around and started to walk around. Omega Grimm and Despair. Wow, you learn how to walk fast. Crimson. Of course I'm a prodigy just like y'all. I can also run and fly. Omega Grim and Despair. So this training will be easier, but at times it will get harder though. Narrator. Days after Crimson's first birthday, he started to training with the royal families and the Anunnaki. Narrator. While he was training in the physical world, he was also training in his mindscape. The royal families and the Anunnaki. Well done, that was your strongest attack yet. Narrator. Crimson spent multiple years and eons training. Dawn of Time Arc Part 5. Narrator. Over the years Seth was acting strange after being sent to the desert. Narrator. Crimson is now 12 years old. Anunnaki. Hello Crimson, for your 13th birthday present, will like for you to become a part of the Anunnaki. Crimson. Does that mean I can come to the meetings that you guys are having? Anunnaki. Yes. Crimson. Okay then, so when is the next meeting? Anunnaki. After your 13th birthday. By the way, we have came across a planet called Earth. Crimson. Is this planet full of life? Anunnaki. No, not yet, but we have sent Isis and Osiris to create life forms. Crimson. Okay then, will they be able to make it to my birthday party? Anunnaki. Yeah, they should be returning tomorrow. Horus and Anubis. But Uncle Seth should be back here any minute. Seth. Hello Crimson, are you ready for your birthday party tomorrow? Crimson. Yes sir, how is your mission going? Seth. I have become the king of the deserts. Crimson. Cool, I can't wait to when I become king. Seth. Crimson, you will become something higher than a king. Ra, the god of the sun. Hello Seth, my son. Oh yeah Crimson, we will begin our training in the sun. Isis. Oh yeah, I forgot, I'll train you in the highest and lower part of the moon. Anubis. And Crimson, I'll be training you in the highest and lowest parts of the underworld as well. Seth. I'll be training with you in the sands of the desert. Crimson. I'll be making clones because my dad said he'll be taking me to the training area as well. Ra, the god of the sun. Okay then. Narrator. Crimson was training all day and all night until 9 p.m. Crimson. Man, I'm tired. Narrator. Crimson passed out from all the training and goes to his mindscape. Omega Grim and Despair. Well, we still have to finish up your training for today. Crimson. Since my physical body is resting, let's do it. Narrator. In Crimson finished up the rest of his mindscape training and woke up in the morning. Narrator. Crimson birthday came, it was March 11th. Justin and Jason. Well, happy birthday. Crimson. Thanks Justin and Jason. Narrator. The Anunnaki called a meeting with all the other members of the Anunnaki and all other gods. Anunnaki. We would to introduce a member to the Anunnaki. Narrator. Crimson stands up wearing a pure white, blue and purple robe. Ed. Who is this brat? Narrator. Crimson and everyone flare up their power when the question got asked. Crimson. Listen here, you will respect me. Narrator. When Crimson powers up, his power turned the room cold like death and hot like the sun. The sun, moon and the underworld started to open and come closer. Amun-Ra. Crimson, calm down now. Crimson. Yes sir, Amun-Ra. But the one over there needs to learn respect. Isis, Osiris and Seth. How dare you disrespect Crimson by calling him a brat? Shirlita, Justin, Cornelius and Julian, Darius, Jason and Joe. Yeah, how dare you call Crimson that? Amun-Ra, and Ra the god of the sun. Crimson can erase you from existence, so I would advise you to hold your tongue when you address him. Narrator. The room get quiet after Amun-Ra and Ra the god of the sun said that. Ed. But how is he that strong? Seth. It's just in his genetics, which means he was born like that. Prometheus. No further the question about crimson power. Ski. There was one of us is missing. Crimson. Levi isn't here. El thought would he be here to see me because he has been wanting a long time. Amun-Ra. Crimson, how know who Ski is talking about? Crimson. I'll tell you later in private. But his name. Narrator. Levi show up in the meeting room. Crimson. Long time no see, my oldest friend and brother. Narrator. Everyone but Seth, Isis, Osiris, and the Anunnaki was confused. Levi. How long were you going to make me wait on you, Crimson? Crimson. I'm sorry about that, but I couldn't help that you were born before me, you know that. Justin. Crimson, how is he your brother? Crimson. Justin, I'll explain to you later. Narrator. At Crimson birthday celebration, Crimson pulls over the royal families and Levi. Crimson. Y'all were looking confused, so I'll tell y'all who Levi and I are. Ben and Sandra. Please enlighten us. Crimson and Levi. The story goes that we're three gods before us. Set, Isis, and Osiris, Amun-Ra. These gods were creation, death, and despair, and their name were Omega, Grim, and Despair. Set. They always fought to see who was stronger. Amun-Ra. Until they created the godly realm training area, and locked Grim and Despair's cousin away. Then they decided to do a one-time reincarnation. Ra the sun god. The three gods' names were Omega, Grim, and Despair. They were reincarnate into Crimson and Levi. Crimson is the reincarnation of creation, and half of despair and death, which is Omega, Grim, and Despair. While Levi is Despair. Everyone. Wow, that why Crimson your aura was. Crimson. The same colors as my robe. Seth. This is a top secret information, no one can know this. Everyone in the royal families. Yes, we know because there would be a war. Alicia. Crimson, are you coming back to your party? Ben and Sandra. Young love, I remember those days. Crimson. It's nothing like that, we are just friends. Levi. Oh, you're right, I bet she will have you a birthday surprise for you later. Narrator. Alicia and Crimson blushed at what Levi said. Alicia and Crimson. It's nothing like that. Ben and Justin. Then why you blushing? Sandra and Shirlita. Enough with teasing Crimson and Alicia. Narrator. Those were the good times. Narrator. Weeks after Crimson's 13th birthday. Narrator. In the meeting, Anunnaki was shouting at Seth. Crimson. Uncle Seth, that's a horrible plan, please reconsider your plan. Seth. I'm saying that we can feast of the life form's life. Spans. Narrator. Crimson and Levi started to flare up their power and started talking. Crimson and Levi. You are reminding us of him. Narrator. Crimson and Levi voices started to break the meeting room. Narrator. Everyone, including the royal families and the Anunnaki, started to get scared. Sandra and Ben. Please calm down right now. Crimson and Levi. Make any move to the earth other than to help these life forms. We make sure you will cease to exist. We don't want hear no more of this plan. John. How dare you two learn respect? Crimson and Levi. Listen here, you parasite, don't get us upset. Narrator. The room was shaking and breaking. Narrator. With a look from Crimson and Levi, John started to suffocate. Alicia. Crimson, calm down like your parents said. Crimson. This parasite will learn respect if it has to kill him. Amun-Ra and Ra, God the Sun. Crimson, chill now, right now, this isn't one worth it. Crimson. Did I tell you may speak? Ben and Sandra. Damn it, Crimson. Narrator. Crimson's eyes are pure blue, white and purple. Crimson. John, my true identity is that of Omega Grim and Despair, the great powerful gods who created everything. Narrator. The room turns quiet. Ski. What that means, Crimson, you. Crimson. Yes, Ski. John. That's a lie, you are lying. Crimson. Come test out your luck against me, parasite. The Anunnaki. Crimson, calm down because we don't feel like cleaning up any ashes. Narrator. Levi and Crimson and begin to calm down until John shoot an energy blast towards Crimson. Crimson. How dare you, parasite? Narrator. With a single snap of his finger he made John cease to exist. Everyone in the meeting room. Lesson learned, don't get on his bad side. Crimson. I'm sorry that you all had to see that, but really I don't like this plan. Narrator. Crimson shoots an information beam into everybody's head. Come for me when he said was true. Everyone. It's all true, and why you all? Seth. Because we didn't want to start a war. Crimson. That information does not leave here, is that understood? Ed. Yes, Sir Crimson, but why would that start a war? Amun-Ra. Well, we just make sure to keep Crimson and Levi safe. Narrator. Seth rebellion and he lost and got sealed up. And seal up everyone's memories of the events of the royal families and powers into a crest on their head. He created another whole dimension and lived with his family until he went into solitude from everybody after he lost his wife and child. Crimson Nova Dimension. Narrator. Crimson creates the original Crimson Nova Dimension with help from the royal families. Narrator. One day he came across a young orphan boy named Astro, and then took him in and started to train. Crimson, 0. Good job, Astro, that's all for the day. Astro. Thank you, 0. Okay. Narrator. Crimson was born and or incarcerated. Narrator. Many years after learning about the past and his past. Crimson. I'm going to create a planet in higher, but lower of the fourth in this dimension. Ben, what is it going to be called? Crimson. Exenda, the home of the transcends. The royal families. Can anyone? Crimson. Yeah, by the way, I looked into the future. I saw that my incarnations, they will create different gods' planets in this dimension and universe. And we will have many foes. On 2 planets that I will create in the future. The royal families. Who will have to fight? Crimson. Their names are Pitch Black, Astrobartus, Phantom Cloud, and Cosmos. That's it for now. Narrator. In the original Crimson Nova dimension that Crimson created, but not the one that's sitting by the godly realm and the ancient library. Narrator. In the mindscape of Crimson. Crimson, 0. Crimson Omega Light and Yin and Yang I have incarcerated again in this decade. Crimson Omega. We all sense his power, but it's not the time for you to fuse. Crimson, 0. Let me guess, why not? Crimson, 0. Is it because I have almost completed all my training? Crimson Omega. Yeah. Crimson, 0. But don't I have all of my powers from my past life? Crimson Omega. Yeah we be, but we put a crest on all of our power, and the royal family's powers. Crimson, 0. That's why I can only sense his watered down powers, but then again he be suppressing his. Crimson Omega. Or he hasn't been training as hard as you. Light and yin and yang. Yeah we are only sensing the incomplete version of the transformation of harmony and balance omen 2. Crimson Omega. I wonder why? Crimson, 0. That's he's living in an eras of peace, and the Anunnaki hasn't been training him hard. Light and yin and yang. You are right there, but we have a feeling that bad is going to happen. Crimson, 0. Wait a second, I just saw into the future last. Light and yin and yang. What did you see? Crimson, 0. New foes in the Crimson Nova dimension, not the one by the godly realm, and not the one where we originally came from, but the I created being destroyed. Crimson Omega. By who? Crimson, 0. By my student Astro, but I'll one more student, and his name is Red Saint, and he will stand by the incarceration. That's the original version of me. So there will be 2 original version of me. Crimson Omega. This going to be interesting. Light and yin and yang. I guess need to come out of your solitude and talk to the Anunnaki. Crimson, 0. I will when the time is right. Narrator. Now Astro is king and creator of his own private dimension far away from Crimson Nova. Narrator. Astro calls his dimension endless time. Narrator. Few millennia and decades came by and the planet that was built by Crimson called Exenda has flourished. Narrator. Meanwhile at Crimson Nova, Crimson's house, it was bringing attacked by Astro. Justin. How dare you do this? Astro. Wow Justin, you were weak. Justin. Weak you say? Juanita. No Justin, he isn't worth our let Crimson handle, we have to retreat for now. Darius, Jason and Joe. Let's bring back Nova Arc. Narrator. On days leading up to Crimson, the legendary book and prophecy god planet started to glow. Narrator. In the womb of his mother, Crimson was in his mindscape with Omega, Grim and Despair. Crimson. Hey hello you who you all. Omega, Grim and Despair. Well that's Crimson. I'm you and you are me. Omega, Grim and Despair. Crimson, you remember us, but when we... Crimson. I did, but I guess it is part of the way undone since you gave me deja vu. Omega, Grim and Despair. So you remember how time flows in your mind. Crimson. Yes, one day in here equals to infinite eons, and I get my physical body, I will retain all of my train in here. Omega, Grim and Despair. Let's begin your training. Narrator. Fallen and Crimson of Dragos fused after the first day. Narrator. For years of mindscape training and physical training with the Anunnaki, Crimson has met Alicia on Nova and become boyfriend and girlfriend. Narrator. Alicia tell Crimson about their past. Narrator. Lal started his rebellion against the royal family. Crimson. Sun and Moon of Despair. Narrator. Crimson takes out half Lal's men. Lal. Young prince, you must believe that you can beat Crimson. Lal, you think that you are leaving off this planet alive. Narrator. The royal families and Crimson started to beat the living hell of Lal. Narrator. With a single look from Crimson, Lal started to suffocate. Then Crimson powered up, the air begins to be toxic and Lal retreated and Nova. Juanita. I think you all have to leave this planet so Crimson can train some more, so he beat him and Bartis. Isis. I hate it, but the best solution for now. Darius's family. We agree with Isis. Narrator. Crimson's family and Alicia arrived on Earth. Crimson. Shirlita, Justin, Cornelius, Taeon, and I have had many battles on this planet, and we made lifelong friends, but they have all died now. SJCJ. Yup, this right, but do you still have the mansion? Crimson. Yeah, I think it's in Decatur, Georgia, and in Lithia Springs, Georgia. Narrator. Everyone walks in the house in Lithia Springs, Georgia. Crimson. This house automatically keeps up with the time. Taeon. Did. Crimson. Yeah, Uncle and Auntie Osiris and Isis made the training room like the training area. Justin. What's the setting on? Crimson. One Earth day is 19 eons, but they're the Crimson. Ben and Sandra. Technically on the Crimson setting you have been reincarnated since the dawn of time. Crimson. Yeah, and have to be in the royal family's part of the Inner Circle Guard and the Anunnaki. Yeah, it's facial scanner. Narrator. Everyone including Crimson started training on the Crimson setting in the training room. Narrator. They all came out from the training room more strong. Crimson. I'll be in the meditation room. Everyone. Okay then.